Hey everybody, what's going on? Dace here, and today we're having a little chat about Rival Megagun and a bit of a story relating to this game and my history with it, or lack thereof. But anyway, just soak up this incredible title screen. This is amazing stuff. Wow, I just love it. So anyway, this is my 1cc on normal. I just banged this out moments ago. I only started playing this, I think like 3 or so days ago. I got this on sale. It was on sale for really cheap. So it was like $4 or $5 or something. And I've been meaning to play this, honestly, for over 3 years. And the only reason I've held off was because I had, over 3 years ago, I pre-ordered the physical version through First Press Games, and that still has not come. Apparently that was supposed to be Q1 of this year, but Q1 has come and gone. So we will see when they get around to finishing that game. But yeah, that's a long time to wait. So I have some thoughts about this game. But first, I think I'll just for those not familiar with it, I'll just give a bit of a rundown. If you know a game like or games like Twinkle Star Sprites, which Autumn and I reviewed last year, that's like a 2-player. This is pretty much the same thing, where you go up against like an opponent. Of course, I'm going up against the computer player, and I think this kind of game would shine like 1,000 times more brightly when you're actually playing with a human player beside you, or online, or whatever the case is. But going up against the computer, it's still a fun time, and it's still something that you can do for like a 1cc or an all-clear or whatever. So anyway, in a nutshell, you build and maintain chain by damaging and killing enemies. And the meter at the side that you see filling up on my left side, I'm on the left side, of course, you can use that resource. It doesn't have to be all the way full. You can use it to send little like swarms of enemies to your opponent's side of the screen, or you can wait until it is full and then do like a big transformation, which I'm doing here. The first night I sampled a bit of the like sending little enemies over and that kind of stuff. I didn't really find that to ever be too game changing or anything like that. So my whole method with this is just get into the stage, build up to the maximum as fast as I can, and then just transform into the big mech or whatever, the ship, depending on what your character has as its like transformation figure, and then just lay waste, just take down the enemy as quickly as possible, because the way it works is you start with 3 lives. You do not get any more lives in the whole game, which I'm going to talk about that a little bit later, but each life you can take 2 hits, and then you have a maximum of 3 bombs, which you can see there at the bottom left of my screen. So you can use a bomb, and you can get a bomb back. There are certain enemies which will show up. We saw one in the last stage, and when you destroy it, there will be like this item, which we'll see here again, because this is the enemy that I'm shooting right there. So that little spinning thing will cycle through 3 different things. You can repair, you can get more chain, or a bomb. So it's like, okay, as long as you're in one of the first 6 stages, you can always get a bomb back. So it's not like you have to hang on to them. But one thing that is, or at least in my limited experience with the game so far, is that it is crucial to have resources for the final boss and the TLB. Like, it's absolutely brutal. It's a brutal set of fights, honestly. And it's not that it took long, of course, because like I said, like 3 days and I was done it, but at the same time, like, you can, like, it's strange because like there are things that happen consistently that are like programmed to be the same every single time, and yet there is such a mix of all the random stuff that can happen that it just feels like sometimes you'll have this incredible run. You'll get to the final boss with like all your lives and all your bombs, and then things will just go right out the window in that last fight. Or sometimes you'll know exactly what's coming and like how to deal with certain things, even though there is still like a randomness factor in, let's say, stages 5 and 6, or even 4. Like even earlier today, I had a run where I lost a life in like stage 4, and it's like, you got to be kidding me. Like you don't want that kind of stuff to happen. You want to play more or less perfectly, and that's on normal mode. I did jump into the hardest difficulty last night just to get a feel for what it was like for a minute or two, and what the difference is with that is, as soon as you start the stage, your opponent transforms and starts comes over to your side of the screen and starts that whole process themselves. So I think like it's probably something to the effect where like the hardest difficulty just has that at the start of every stage. I think I'm kind of like all over the place here, but that's more or less like the rundown of the game. Each character has a really cool ability that they can do, and then of course their transformation form. And so it's really cool because like you won't always go up against the same order of bosses, even though the stages are always the same. Like this is always stage 4. But sometimes you'll be up against one of the other characters in stage 4. So it's cool because like Dr. Magic or Mr. Magic, whatever his name is that I'm fighting right now, he has like these side balls that come flying, like you just saw right there. So depending on like what stage you're in when you're fighting him, it can pose some issues because like you'll be going up against a certain type of stage enemy, but then also dealing with his specific attack or whoever else you're dealing with. And so there's a lot to take in and just keep in mind when you're going. I've had runs where sometimes like I'm mid-run or like mid-stage, and I look over to see who I'm actually fighting because I haven't been paying attention, and I look over to see like who it is so that I can then know who like what attack I need to watch out for, whether it's going to be like beams across or balls flying or like missiles coming down the screen or whatever. And then of course looking and then realizing, and then it's like too late and you've already taken a hit from something silly. But yeah, so it's a wild time. It's a wicked game in its own way. There are some things that I do want to touch on very shortly. But I think I would like to just really highlight how much I love the pixel art, the enemy design, and there are some subtle animations that you might not really pick up on right away because like you're just in the action, so you're not really focusing on things. But like there are certain enemies that not these missile ones, but another missile enemy where like this pod drops away as the missiles come out of it, I'm assuming. And it's just little things like that which really shine in my mind. And every single song in this whole game is just absolutely awesome. I love the music. This is a solid soundtrack. So all in all, like the presentation is wicked. Like just the colors, the backgrounds, like everything, like no complaints. I love it. Like even little flash moments like that where you just see, like they could easily have done nothing, but just the things that they did add are really awesome. So I think with some of that stuff out of the way, I think what I will do is just touch on, and I've kind of already touched on it, just mentioning how like just the wonkiness in terms of just how you can play really well and then you can just have everything go out the window. But it feels different than normal shmups. In this game, it feels kind of like I'm not sure the word to use really, but it feels like I don't want to say that it feels unfair, but I feel as though it could have been balanced a little better, or they could have given the player just a little more to work with to not have such a grueling time just clearing that last like tiny chunk of the game, which is the final boss in TLB. Because we'll see what it is, what it's like when we get there. Another thing I've noticed, it doesn't happen all the time, so I'm not sure like what's up with that, but like sometimes, when I took that hit, I was like, you gotta be joking me. Like, as if. The run just before this, I took a hit, or I lost a life to this same guy, and I was like, you gotta be kidding me. So I was thinking like, oh man, well, okay, we'll see how the run goes, like whatever, but yeah, sometimes what happens when you have like a whole bunch of gauge built up, and you take a hit, you will lose gauge. Sometimes it's a ton, and other times it's like just a little bit. So yeah, like I'm not sure what's up with that, but there's a section during the, like right before the final form of like the TLB comes out, where you have to go from 0 gauge to full gauge to be able to do a specific attack so that you can actually start damaging the true last boss. But there's stuff flying all over the place, little enemies popping out, and it's very easy to just take a hit. I don't recall if I do in this session, but I have in numerous runs. I cannot tell you how many runs I've done in this game. And so in ways it's kind of just like, man, like you go through all this effort to build gauge, and then it's just like in a crucial time where you have to be saving all your resources, you cannot be taking hits, all this other stuff. And that's the time where it's like, oh wow, I just put all this time into building the gauge, and now there goes all that hard work. That didn't really feel like it didn't feel like it had a place. Like it felt out of place. I think I'll word it that way, because I'm sure like maybe they had a reason for it, I'm not sure, but whatever. That's kind of just like one thing I noticed that kind of just made this last tiny bit of the game a major slog just to get through. And this fight too, getting used to this fight, I was using Smith for like almost all of my runs, but I decided to just experiment with something that would have a little more like direct damage for this battle specifically. And that's another thing that just transformed my chances of clearing this earlier than later. Like I did have some closer ones with Smith where I started to see the progress, but at the same time I was like, you know what, this fight that we just finished here, like there's just too much going on. Like I just have to bring this thing down way faster. And so I just went with Gen, or Jen, whatever his name is supposed to be, just to more or less increase my survival rate. So yeah, those were like a couple things. Here's the part I mentioned where all the little dudes start coming out. Sometimes, like, it's strange. It's like one of those things where sometimes I will have a perfect session where like I don't get hit here at all, and I build up super quick, and like everything just feels like the easiest thing, and it happens really quickly. And other times it's like I'm all over the place, and I'm just suddenly I take a silly hit and blah blah blah, and then it's just like, oh, you gotta be joking me. So like I said, I'm not sure if I take a hit here, but we're gonna find out. I kind of feel like I do. So I wasn't actually watching my meter, but I think I'll go back and check that. But I swear, sometimes it drops significantly, and it's brutal. So the moment it's ready, you just want to be going into this transformation just so that you don't miss your opportunity. Because one of the runs before this, I had it fully charged, and I was like a fraction of a second too late, and I got hit, and then boom, I have to start recharging the whole thing over again. And I was like, you've got to be joking me. So this is pretty standard stuff, but this boss does throw some fairly nasty things your way. Hits. Man. There's a lot to pay attention to, and here I was just like, you know what, we're just gonna bomb. I was thankful to actually have bombs, and the reason I bombed again there was because that attack in particular, I always mess up in that attack. And there's one other one that I usually mess up, but I was like, wow, I'm so close now, I might even be able to bypass. It's this attack here. I was like, I'm just going to use my last bomb and get this guy out of here. Normally, I haven't damaged, like with Smith for instance, I haven't damaged the boss enough, so you go through that wild attack he was about to do, and then there are some even nastier things that just, like, everything just becomes a mess. It's wild. But yeah, I think that was the first time making it to that point with 3 bombs. And so I was like, you know what, I have got to make this count. Because I know what it's like when you just don't have that. Most of the time I was going in there with like 1 bomb or 2 bombs. And that's just, yeah. You can, like, it's doable, but when you're still as new to this as I am, it's just messy, and you kind of just, you know, the final fight is a slog. You just want it to be done and over with, because like I said, you can play the first huge chunk of the game like perfectly, and then everything can just go out the window. So it's just a matter of like, okay, let's have the highest damage output, or like the straightest shot you can have, just to ensure that what we're firing out is like nailing that boss, just to bring everything and everyone down super fast. So yeah, that's that, a short run. Like, yeah, I think there are ways that they could have kind of like, I think if they wanted to entice people to chain more or like something, they could have at least had like 1 score based extend or something like that. I think that would have been awesome, because like sometimes you'll just be like not chaining so much because it's like, well, okay, 1 enemy comes out, mostly in the first stage, but yeah, I think those are like just the general thoughts I had. Like, there's probably more I could say, but I don't want to, like, I'm watching this timer tick down, so I got like half a minute. But I think just a little something extra just to give you that push near the end, since it is just like a slop fest half the time. But at the same time, like, we'll see, like, if I continue playing more, then maybe I'll just kind of like learn a little bit more how to like do things more consistently, or who knows. But it is a pretty wild time, so half the time you're just, yeah, making sense as you're like in the moment. But anyway, have an awesome one. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.